George Beattie, now 66 years of age, was convicted of murdering Margaret McLaughlin in 1973 in Carluke in Lanarkshire.
I knew Margaret for years and her family.
Did you commit that murder?
No, I did not commit that murder.
Margaret's body was found in an area known as Colonel's Glen. It was a bloody and brutal attack. She was stabbed 19 times. Beattie was 19 at the time and known locally as a big safety. He spent more than 20 years behind bars and now lives in England.
The way I was treated with the Lanarkshire police at that time, the time that the interviews went through and that, the time they finished me, I would say I was punch drunk, because they used towels around their hands. I can remember them banging off with the lockers and them lift my hair and push me into water, down below the water and that. But nobody's been interested in that. To me, at that time, I should not have been interviewed without a lawyer, but in their days there was no such a thing as lawyers or tapes or anything like that. So basically the Lanarkshire police could do whatever they want.
I started work on George's case in 1982, about 10 years after he was convicted.
George Beattie has fought to clear his name for the past 47 years.
None of it fits. I'm sorry, it would go. I can't tell you 2 hours of evidence in 10 seconds. But basically there was very, very bad, wrong police work done here.
His case was the subject of documentaries produced by veteran investigative journalist Peter Hill, who continues to fight his corner.
George is innocent, but the main point about the case is that he can't possibly be guilty, because he's alibied for the whole time when the murder must have taken place. And also, all the way through, the police were lying about the evidence. They cooked up a story and they stuck with it, and they actually elaborated it as they went to court.
You believe he's innocent?
Yes, without a doubt. The evidence alone that was present was in no way sufficient to convict George Beattie. Maybe he's alleged to have said things in response to interrogation, but the evidence alone was non-existent.
I've failed to understand how a jury managed to convict on the lack of evidence and the serious doubt that George Beattie was capable of carrying such a crime. Had the case occurred in England, I'm quite confident that the appeal court would have overturned and quashed the conviction.
In 1993, the MP Jimmy Hood delivered a lengthy speech to the House of Commons about the case.
My adjournment debate tonight is about a young 19-year-old Carluke boy who was convicted of murder in 1973. A simple lad, not very well educated, he was known in Carluke as a big softy.
Much of Jimmy Hood's speech was about this man, Chief Superintendent William Munsey, who was in charge of the murder investigation. Munsey was perhaps the most famous police officer of the era due to his role in helping capture the 1950s serial killer Peter Manuel. However, campaigners have long claimed that in securing Beattie's conviction for murder, he perverted the course of justice by bending evidence to fit his flawed theory. The Beattie case was the 54th and final murder of Munsey's detective career before his elevation to managerial ranks.
It wouldn't be nice to say that this officer of such a high reputation actually deliberately lied so as to make sure that his last case ended in a conviction, and so ensuring him a 100% success record before he left for one of the highest ranking police jobs in Scotland. But we might excuse George Beattie, who's in his cell in Salton Prison tonight, for thinking that. Beattie is not in Salton Prison because he committed a murder in Carluke in 1973. He is in jail because if the truths come out, too many reputations will suffer in high places. That is the sad truth, and it is something that the Scottish Office and its ministers must stand up to and answer. They have hidden behind the many complications and twists and turns in the story of George Beattie. They must now realise that the guilty verdict was a miscarriage of justice.
I hope today that the right verdict will come out of the judges this morning,
and end a nightmare for you.
Yes. It's been a long nightmare, a long 21 years. So I hope today it finishes it all.
George Beattie has twice taken his case to the appeal court, but on both occasions failed to overturn his conviction for murder.
I think that it's been set in concrete and there's nobody interested. I would like it to be clear before I pass on, but that is something that's beyond my expectations. I feel that there's no much time left now. My mother died and I would like to her to see me cleared, but that wasn't to be, you know. I think actually, in fact, I would have had a better life if this hadn't happened. I think I would have been still in Scotland, and I think I would have married in Scotland. My sweetheart's now married, but I would have married her. Because we were school friends and we used to live next door to one another when I went to Lanarkshire Street. And but she's now gone now.
I spoke at length to Rosemary McLaughlin, Margaret's sister, and I heard of the effect of all this on her. As a consequence of that, I actually went down to the cemetery in Carluke. I found Margaret's grave and I vowed to Margaret that I would try to find the actual murderer if I could. It wasn't my job, but I'd try to do it. Because I didn't like, just as Rosemary, I didn't like walking around Carluke, going down to Lanarkshire and thinking that the murderer who killed that lovely girl was still walking free. And he was. He must have laughed all the way out of the court in Glasgow when George was convicted. And I can get away with it, he thought, because there are idiots like George Beattie who'll get convicted for it. Don't worry, I'll go and do another one. And I think that's what happened.
Who do you think was being protected?
Well, it's obviously the senior officers who were in charge of the murders that resulted in a wrongful conviction.
Munsey was a respected and even celebrated officer. You realise the significance of what you're saying here?
I do, yes. But the facts speak for themselves. There's no doubt about it. The George Beattie could never have committed that murder, I don't think.